How would the recent phenomena of protectionism and currency manipulation in world trade affect macroeconomic stability in India? See, the question here is trying to ask the impact. So I was just reminded of the all kind of trade war between China and United States that was going on in that moment. Even now the issue is very hot. So that all things came up, and I especially noted the keywords protectionism and currency manipulation. Currency manipulation, generally we think we read about it in case of China, where it goes for currency devaluation to actually keep its exports competitive. So I tried to first introduce this question. Since it's a 250 words answer, there is scope for you to actually elaborate on the topic that's given. So I introduced my answer by giving a global context of economy. That what was the current situation, how the economy in the world was going on, and how there were certain waves of protectionism because of lower employment opportunities or people in their own countries. So protectionism, then I elaborated after introducing the global context. Then I elaborated on what do we mean by protectionism, where a country is actually, it's kind of opposite to globalization. That's what was coming to my mind. That globalization symbolizes openness of trade, information, migration. But protectionism in that sense actually protects your country, closing borders, all of those things come together. But here, since it is asked in General Studies paper 3, we need to specifically tell the impact on economic perspective. It's not about political or cultural aspect. It's more about economy. And specifically, it's mentioned here, macroeconomic stability of India. So the focus of the answer is very sharp, It's about India, and even in India, the macroeconomic stability. So by first giving here, I wrote something about protectionism and currency devaluation. There I mentioned example that how China was involving itself in currency manipulation in order to keep its products competitive in the global international export market. And then I moved on to the points of how it would impact the macroeconomic stability of India. And one by one, I just kept on elaborating. Like for macroeconomic stability means overall stability of the economy at a macroeconomic level, at a broad level. So I said that if protectionism is there, then we won't be able to expand our exports. See, one thing in the last year's economic survey, I had read one chapter, last year's economic survey. There was one chapter which actually mentioned that these economies like China and Southeast Asia, they had actually expanded into tiger economies with the help of the export market. But here, since when India is reaching that particular phase, we would not be getting that advantage or that openness by the European and American markets. So these were some of the points that were coming to my mind. And also, since exports is a policy, we are trying to promote a lot. So I began my these points by answering that the scope of exports from our country would reduce. They would face greater political and economic restrictions. For example, in Europe also, as we all know, I also mentioned that how the European and this Indian free trade agreement is not coming into any conclusion because European standards are kept very high. I was also reminded of that there was some issue regarding Harley Davidson as a topic between India and America Business Council. So these were some of the points. I tried to connect exports. I tried to connect how exports are less, then it would impact on the overall balance of trade of our country, which would be on the negative side if we are importing and not being able to export. Because if you look at the import-export ratio of our country, the products which we are importing are irreplaceable, like crude oil, something that we cannot produce ourselves. Only that. So it's very less scope to reducing our imports. But exports was an area where the protectionism will spoil it. Talking about currency manipulation, then I also tried to analyze the impact of currency manipulation of China on Indian currency. Why? Because Chinese imports, China is one of the biggest exporters to India. And we also know the amount of products that come to India from China. So that I said that it will also widen, or also it'll more, widen these difference between the balance of trade between India and China. Because Chinese currency, they will devaluate to make the exports competitive for our country. But then our country would suffer on that front. So the currency front, the rupee could have a fall. All of these things I tried to connect in this answer. So I feel it was more of a basic economic, if we could connect basic economic ideas of inflation, export, currency, then we could write this answer.